Thumbs up, you're live.
All set?
Yep.
All right. This is the February 15th, 2023 meeting of the Fire Station Building Committee. We're meeting here at Town Hall, meeting room 124. The meeting's also available by Zoom. I'll call the meeting to order. We don't need to take attendance because we're all here. Chief Kinney and Todd Lindmark are not present. So we'll open it up to, first agenda item is public comment. We have anyone from the public on? All right. So, very exciting. This is our first meeting post-vote. Everyone knows it obviously went well. With that, I will turn it over to Steve, I think, for a couple of these discussion items. So an update on Castagna Construction Corporation contract and the start of construction.
Okay.
Do you want to go through these, or are you going to go through slides? Or?
I sort of, the slides are based on the agenda, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Just wanted to give an update of where we are since essentially our vote, our town meeting, and the last committee meeting. We do have signed contract between the town and Castagna Construction Corp. We're waiting for their submission of the bonds and insurance. We have the pre-construction meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, the 22nd, at 10 o'clock over at the training room at the fire department. Town planner has requested a hard copy of the site plans just for sign-off by the planning board at their next meeting. All the decisions are included in the contract. It's just more formality. Building permit application is done online by the contractor, and already has the documents ready for them to upload.
So for the pre-construction meeting, I think Justin is attending, correct? We can ask him when he comes back, but
Yeah.
I'm not available. I don't know if you need anyone from the committee there, but obviously if Justin's going, he can probably represent the committee.
Justin, the building inspector, we invited Rich from the planning department. He was unable to make it. Myself, Doran Whittier, and the Castagna crew. I'm sure the chief will maybe pop his head in if he's there.
Okay.
But it's pretty much the standard items of a pre-construction meeting, going over our schedule, our logistics, reminding the contractor certain things, talking about submittals, RFIs, making sure we get set up on their project management software and so forth. So. And then I figured we could have done it remote, but we'll meet at the site. We can walk around with them during the procurement enabling period. It'll probably be as needed basis. We can probably do remote job meetings and on-site when needed. But once we start construction full bore, it'll be a weekly on-site project meeting.
Couple of questions.
Yep.
Clerk of the Works? Do we have one?
We will be supplying a clerk of the works, yes.
We don't know who that is yet.
No, we are in the process of actually hiring someone
Okay.
to do that.
Justin, do you intend to be involved on a daily basis with the construction project?
On a daily basis?
Well,
No, I
maybe
don't
that's
know.
not the right word.
I think we're going to talk internally about someone on the town side of it. I will obviously be a part of it, but I'm wondering if Matt, as our facilities director, might have a little more of a hands-on role as we're moving forward. So we're talking about that, the logistics of it.
Yeah,
So-
it is good to have someone
Yeah.
from the town especially at the job meetings.
Yeah.
Sort of follow along with what's,
But that's once a week, that's not every day, right?
it's once a week, yeah.
Yeah.
We will have someone on.
I mean, anybody can stop in, it's not, you're not limited.
Yeah, so I guess let me finish I didn't get all my entire thought out, I guess. So where I'm leading to is I'm wondering if, I don't remember what our charge is, to be honest with you. Like, do we need a construction subcommittee to appoint someone to be more regular at the meetings?
I don't
Or are
remember
we
that being in
relying on,
charge.
Steve and Justin to keep us updated with?
We have many projects. Sometimes a committee member who has the time, or sometimes it's a retired person, will come to the meetings on a regular basis. But there was no appointment for it. It's optional. You're going to have us as the OPM there. I'll be at every job meeting. The clerk will be at every job meeting. Representatives from Dorn Whittier, engineers if need be, and then obviously the contractors team.
And at the minimum, I intend someone from the town to be there consistently. So if Matt is not the person to do it, then I would be, or the assistant town administrator. There will be someone from the
You
town.
guys tag team or something?
Yeah.
Right. So then I guess the last question is, I think it would be good to have those meetings online so that we could attend
We don't usually do that.
because they would be public?
They're not a public meeting. There'll be
Or are you just
ju-
asking for like a Teams link like we did for the
Yeah.
working?
there'll be meeting minutes
Okay.
generated, and that could certainly be something that can be passed out.
Is a non-public Teams meeting a possibility? You're saying it's not something you guys typically do?
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying you were opening it up for anyone to call in. You're talking about...
No, I meant more like
Committee
us.
members.
I'm
Oh,
guessing
no,
you
no.
get more involvement of the committee if it was...
I'm sorry, I misunderstood, yes.
So let me rephrase the
Yes.
question. Is there an opportunity for remote involvement of
Yes.
the meetings by the committee?
Yes, yep.
If it's a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday that you would schedule them, I can probably go to most of them.
We right now, we are leaning
geotech
towards
guy there.
Wednesday
I
afternoons
mean, once the building
to
starts.
coincide with the building committee meetings, having people here already.
Yeah.
So we've already put that out to Castagna. Ron and I have talked about it previously.
Yeah, I think if there's a call-in option, I mean, I don't think any of us need to commit to doing it, but if it's there, and if, I
No,
don't know, if Justin or Matt,
Specifically for that meeting, yes.
yeah, if
we do
Justin and
that,
Matt are
yes.
attending and say, hey, I think someone else listening in on this would be good for whatever topic is being
Yeah.
discussed.
I mean, once we establish it, we're going to put out an invite just so it comes up in people's calendars on a regular basis. If you want to be on that, whoever wants to be on that, it'll show up on your,
Similar to what we
Yeah.
were
On
doing
your
before,
Outlook.
essentially.
We should
with
be
the teams.
careful, though,
Yeah,
like, we
we
can't
just
all show
can't
up
all
to
show
it.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say that, yeah. Do we need, Justin, we need to be careful that like quorum of us can't show up at the same meeting?
Right.
Can we have like an email that goes out once a week or something like that? If someone says, I plan on attending.
Yeah, and then the
people
others know.
reply and say, oh, I was planning on going too,
It's-
so we just avoid that.
it's probably going to be like somewhere around 1 o'clock to start. I don't know if that impacts your availability or not, but, we want to get it within the day of, that your contractors are there, especially if you want to talk to a sub in particular. And if a meeting goes for an hour, then we get another hour and a half to walk the site. And that's going to vary depending on, some meetings are going to go longer than others, and the walkthroughs are going to get longer as more work gets done. But
Now, do you decide on when that's going to occur? Does the contractor decide on that?
as far as the time.
As the day of it?
Well, it's going to be one of our topics for Wednesday's meeting, but I've already sort of put it out there so that they're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, just personally, and it's just for me, if it could be a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, because I definitely couldn't attend any of them if it was a Tuesday
Yeah.
or a Thursday. But it's going to be what it's going to be.
I think, for me, it works out very well for Wednesday, and I don't want to speak for Ron, but I think it does, again, only because once a month, we're going to be coming here for a committee meeting.
Yep.
So we're already
I don't know
in
how it
town.
might be either if other people have other availability.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, I honestly don't know if I'm going to be available those days, so I would just set it for what works for you guys, and then, yeah, I think we can handle it that if one of us is going to attend that week, just email the committee and say, I'm going to attend. That way we know. We can restrict how many other people are going to call in, so it's not a open meeting.
How many people could go
We could have up to 5,
from the committee?
because we're a committee of 8. Oh, no, we could have 4. So we could have
I
4
mean,
go.
I can't imagine there's going to be a week where 4 people are all going to
I
go.
don't think so, but just remember, like, Justin might already be there.
Right, right.
So
And
the chief might be there.
Yep.
So we could get to 4 quick.
Yep.
So. Okay.
So-
Yep, you can
Okay.
keep going.
So just sort of schedule, look ahead on pretty much the short term. Again, we're going to have the pre-construction meeting next week. We're looking for their submission of, that should be scheduled, not scheduled, and their schedule of values, so we can start looking at that. I know that they want to probably submit an application for payment for the month of February for their bond cost. So we've said, we can probably work something out for that, but we'd like to see at least your initial schedule of values. I know they're probably still pulling them in from the subs, but they should have the file submitters pretty quickly. Again, the building permit application submission, we want to set up the project management software that's supplied by Castagna. That's, I believe it's going to be Procore, but they have not confirmed that yet. And that way we can start the long lead time material submissions, getting the submission from Castagna and the subs, having the reviews by the architect or the engineers, and getting them back to them so they can start releasing materials like switchgear and generators and so forth. I've also want Castagna to initiate the contact with Eversource Energy for the temporary building power and transformers, and start them on our enabling phase, which is the scope that's in the logistics plan, which includes, again, the temp power transformer and the relocation of the existing generator, among other things. And that's all, we want that all set up prior to their actual mobilization, just to keep the existing station operational, but getting things out of the way. And that's all illustrated on the logistics plans. That's part of the contract.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Bite my tongue for this slide.
All right, so then a few other issues. And I think Ron may have this ready, and maybe we can defer this till I get my slides off the screen, but there's going to be a project sign that's required. We just sort of want to have an initial draft of what we're thinking. Usually it's town seal, it's a rendering, it's the logos of the OPM, the architect and the contractor, and maybe there's some other names written out and so forth. So I'm pretty sure Ron has something prepped for that. So we can look at that shortly. Change order review and approval and procedures. During construction, we're going to have PCOs, proposed change orders that are submitted. Some we're going to ask for, some that may just be submitted, some may be based on RFIs or ASIs. As just part of regular procedure, the initial PCOs will be vetted by Vertex and Doran Whittier and the engineers, if they're applicable, to go through hours, materials, quantities, costs, overhead and profits, just to make sure that we get to a point that's a fair and reasonable number. At that point, we'll have something that we would recommend. My assumption is we're going to bring PCOs to the committee for approval so that they can be incorporated into a change order. And we'll most likely do that once a month, and we'll incorporate a number of PCOs. We're not going to do one change order per PCO because that'd be a lot of paper.
In concept, this is all in concept.
But if we're having a meeting once a month, there's a fair amount of time in between. So I'm recommending that there be a set limit for approval without having the full building committee review and approval of $25,000 for a non-site related change and $50,000 for a site related change. Because again, if we get into a site related issue, it's probably going to be more than a building interior, for the most part. I want to, I'm not guaranteeing that, but
What does that mean, non-site related and site related?
site meaning earthwork, ledge, unsuitables, we open up a utility trench and we encounter something, just so that we can keep the contractor moving forward. We don't want to stop the process in order to wait for an approval on a PCO at a building committee meeting. And I don't want to actually, be calling you guys in for interim meetings, more than is necessary.
Steve, can you hear me?
Can now.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. When you're done with this discussion, I do have a draft sign that you can take a peek at.
Okay.
Did Jason Harris have his hand up?
I think he was going to ask if you guys could hear me.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't before, we can now,
Yeah.
Okay, great.
if you were
Thanks.
trying. And then ultimately, the assumption is once a change order is finalized, that Justin would be signing for the town. So, for
I think
discussion.
we need to think about that one, but I understand why you're asking for it. It makes sense. I think we need to talk about if there's an upset limit or what. But
Yeah,
it's okay until we get to $100,000 or something, and I don't know, we should put our heads together.
And again, if there's someone from the town that said they're going to be involved in the conversation too, like I said, you've hired us as professionals to go through this stuff. Generally speaking, nothing that comes in as a PCO is approved the first time around unless it's a unit price. And we do have unit prices in here. Some of the site work changes or latent conditions we might find could be handled under the unit price categories, which makes it a lot easier. It's just verifying quantity. We already have the cost per cubic yard or whatever it is.
I'm thinking at least we need somebody, like even if it's Justin. I just feel like we can't leave it open, but I don't know what the legality of that is or what the town wants to do. Maybe we should be asking you.
Yeah, I would give a proposal that I would be an approver and of course, the way I would work would be let the chair know as well and then obviously proliferate. But in terms of signing off, I think typically I've seen like a town administrator or delegate from the town do
Yeah.
that.
We're not looking to do it without your input.
Yeah, no.
We just don't want, need the
You don't
entire
need to come
committee.
back to the
So
committee to
if
make
it's
the
Justin
decisions.
or it's someone, it's like, okay, this is what we came up with. It's a phone call or an email.
Makes me feel a
This
lot
is where
better,
we're at.
yeah.
Can we-
At least if Justin signs off on
Yeah,
it.
and just say, can we give them the okay to move forward with this? Then we'll incorporate it into a change order after the fact. Because not only do we want the work done, but they're also going to want to bill for something that they did. So if we have those approvals in, then they can bill for it on the follow-up application for payment.
yeah, I mean, I understand it, and I think sometimes these come up and they say, look, like, we need to move on this in the next week, and we're over a committee meeting for 3 weeks. Yeah, I think if it's going through you, Justin, I mean, and you can call me
Yeah.
too if it's something you want to run by, get my opinion
That would
on
be
it.
my I'm collaborative. I think if I'm the approver, I'm always just going to loop you in, Kevin, just so you're in the know and the committee's in the know. But
Steve, so just to be clear, Steve, I think the semantics of the sentence is what's scaring me, right? It says without FSBC review, but it's really not. It's
so without the full
with the
entire-
identified
Yeah.
member of the FSBC.
The full, maybe I should, the
Right.
full.
Yeah, full,
FS, yeah.
yeah,
So
okay.
maybe it's, set limit for approval by town administrator without full FSBC review or.
How many of these are we gonna approve? Like, what if, they watch this and they're like, all right, we'll just submit everything for $49,999, and now all of a sudden we have 1,500 change of.
Well, I mean, we
That's
can
why,
go back to
that's why Justin's paying attention.
Yeah.
Well, and we can, I mean, we can,
I'm not going to be doing that either.
and there's nothing stopping us from saying, whoa, this is piling up, we need to start reviewing all these,
I mean, I'm sure there are some that are common or anticipated, but I've never been involved in this, so I don't know what to expect. Is there gonna be one? Is there gonna be 100? Like, what's the?
Well, I mean, always, at the pre-construction meetings, the first thing I say, when we get to the change order topic, I said, well, we don't have to worry about this, there will be no change orders, and then everybody laughs, and then we move on. But, yeah, we're not looking for it certainly could be. I've been on jobs when there's been quite a few, but we're not looking to be
Yeah,
doing
this is-
change orders every single day.
This is a new building, you wouldn't think they would do
Yeah.
that.
There's certain areas that we have concerns of. It's always underground where you can't see. When we demo the building where you can't see, and that's more related to abatement type stuff. But there's going to be something else. I mean, you've got a building that has, a million parts in it. Something is not necessarily going to fit quite right, so.
Right. And we've got the contingencies built in
Yeah,
to
of
plan
Right.
for it, so this
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
basically the same.
we're watching the contingency, in regard to what's being improved and what's coming up. And there may be, again, we're talking latent conditions, maybe there's something that didn't quite work out, but there may be something as we go along where, the end user or you as the town say, hey, we want to change something, an owner request. Whether we do it or not, we can certainly ask them, issue a proposal request, ask them for the price, look at it. If it's something that we thought was going to be 10,000, it comes back as 50,000, so we're not doing it.
And now, when these get approved by Justin and/or myself, do you still present them at the next committee meeting and say, here were the change orders that were approved in the last month?
Yeah, what we'll have is, we'll have a number of PCOs, and we'll be working off the PCO numbers, in individual proposed change orders. When we gather up a bunch of those, or whatever we have approved on a monthly basis, we'll put that into an actual AIA change order document. And it'll be PCO 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, whatever it is, with the numbers total and what the revised contract amount is. That'll be the final paperwork, but a lot of times it follows up what may already be done in the field because they had to move on it. It's not to delay the job. If every job you waited for every piece of paper to be signed, projects would take forever. It's just, it's a fast-moving condition. So that will be presented to, here's change order such and such, here's the architect's signature, the contractor's signature on it, we get the town signature on it, then ultimately they on their application for payment, they have on the last page, they start adding change orders. Change order 1, they'll have the however many line items on it, put it on their schedule of values, and as they work on them, they'll apply a percentage of completion.
Let's say that one of those thresholds is exceeded and we don't have a meeting for another 3 weeks or something like that. Are there any clauses written into the contract regarding change order dispute and work stoppage?
There's lots of clauses in the contract.
I'm sure.
There is, but I mean, again, if there's something that's so desperate and so costly, I would request that we have an interim meeting.
Yeah.
And, it would be just for that topic.
I asked
virtually or
only
something.
more recently in some of the construction contracts that I'd seen, there was a specific line that says, a dispute over change order shall not be cause for the contractor to stop work under any circumstance.
Well, it isn't, yeah, it isn't good for the contractor to say, you're not approving this, I'm shutting down the job. They just don't do that. You may have a subcontractor that may get a little ornery, but, I always say, that's not in your best interest to do that. You got other things to do.
Yeah.
Work on it.
And I guess I ask again because of a personal experience with a subcontractor.
I'm sure, yeah,
who, didn't want to work, and our client, brought that up and said, here you go, guys.
Yeah.
Here's this clause.
And a lot of time, the general contractor will also push to have him continue.
Right.
Because they see how it affects everything else. It's sort of like a domino effect.
Oh, yeah.
Especially depending on who it may be. So.
Drillers. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so I think we've,
Do we need to formally vote on that?
I would. If you want to nail it down tonight, I would.
Okay. We can do it when we get to action items then.
okay. The next item, although, do you want to go and look at the sign, or do you want to just wait through these slides here, and then, I've only got a few.
Yeah, why don't you go through the slides?
Okay. The next thing is, again, this is for discussion. We're going to want to have a groundbreaking ceremony, I'm sure. It's when, date and time, pre or post mobilization. I think the way we're set up, we got some enabling stuff. They're going to be starting within the first 60 days. And it's who do you want, invitees, speakers, how are you going to advertise? Are you going to have it open to the public? NCTV's involvement. Generally speaking, if we wait and, once the contractor's on site, sometimes it's better to maybe have it on a Saturday as opposed to the weekday, just so we're not interrupting their flow, or later on in the afternoon, 3:30 or something like that. If not, they certainly know that, and then they can, we can work around each other, but if you're going to be having a number of people show up and chairs and set up and so forth, just something, I'm not looking for an answer or a date or time, I'm just saying it's something we want to probably start thinking about.
Yeah, I agree, and I would kind of defer to the chief on this one, so. I think it's a good idea. I'm sure the chief will have a better idea of how it'd be best executed and how open they want it to be.
Because, at a minimum, you want that pile of sand or dirt and a bunch of shovels.
Yeah, you need a machine or something out there.
Or you put, the site guy has his bucket in the background, or something like that. It's a photo op. It's good for the project.
Steve, I know we'll have to decide like date and time, but ballpark, when are we looking to do this? In March, right?
Well, they're going to, officially speaking, they're going to be coming on board, with right about April 1st for the construction phase. Right now, if you skip down, I got the schedule as a reminder, as the next major bullet. Our procurement enabling period is now to basically the April 1st. It's that first 60 days, and then construction, I'm calling phase 1, which is the new building, is April to June of next year. So we're middle of February now, so got a month and a half before they're full bore on the site.
Okay.
April.
Okay.
Yeah, April.
April showers.
So we can decide on the next.
Vacation week.
So we can say post-mobilization then, if we're going to say April.
Yeah.
I think so.
And then it gives you a little bit more time to say, who do you want to maybe say a few words, and how you want to set it up.
Yeah, I would just,
And we can revisit
so we
it.
don't have to wait till our next meeting, I would just send the chief an email and put a bug in his ear and see what he wants to do. Or, I'm guessing that's Steve, not Kevin, but, or Justin.
Say, Chief, you weren't at the meeting, so you got
Yeah.
tasked
we
with this.
delegated.
At the minimum, I know the board would want to most likely go and.
What'd you say?
Said at the minimum, the board,
Yeah,
select board would like
select
to.
board, I'm sure is
to
gonna
go
wanna
and we've had fire people, Donna and people showing up, so I think let the chief decide, but at minimum, the select board would want to go.
Yeah, but they may want to break out hot dogs and everything, right?
Yeah.
So,
I've seen them done many different ways, Just a quick, short thing, something a little bit more involved. It's totally up to you.
Do you want to talk to the chief, or you want me to reach out to him?
No, we can send an email, I can send an email after this and just.
Yeah, I'll let them know.
Okay. Okay.
We can always have a conference call or something.
Sure.
So again, on this slide, just was a reminder of our construction schedule. It's the procurement enabling period for the first couple months. Construction runs us to substantial completion in June of next year, and final completion in July of the first phase, which is the new building. Then we do the building demo and site work to mid-September, and closeout goes to the end of October.
So Steve, you covered the questions I was going to ask there for the slide here, but a follow-up. Can we get like I don't want to call it a critical path schedule, maybe a milestone schedule? Just so that we have something that we can, like a handout that we can have, just to remind
We
ourselves.
can give sort of that high level.
Yeah.
And then, but we're going to get a schedule from the contractor of what, obviously a lot more detailed, which is something that you guys can look at too. We want the baseline, and then every month with his submission of his application for payment, we want that update so we can see what's, the actual, what's ahead, what's behind, how is his logic showing his completion date to meet these I call our milestone dates,
Yeah, perfect. And I guess I'm hoping you can digest that larger schedule into a milestone schedule for executive summary schedule.
Yeah, no, we don't need to see each line item. We just roll it up. Yep.
Great, thanks.
All right, so, sort of, as we move forward into construction, thought there'd be a good idea just to go over sort of what I think our standard building committee meeting would have as, and this isn't, we can add other topics to it, but in general, and I try to keep it somewhat in the format that we have been as far as the larger bullets, but, going through this, we always do public comment first, in the meetings, but then we get into discussion items. I'm sort of calling it the OPM report. Well, I will have something like this to put up on the screen, and that will have, a construction progress narrative, sort of bullet points of what's been done in the last month, and then do a photo documentation, because, for the most part, everybody's going to be on the outside looking at the project. While they're doing site work, you can see what's going on, but as soon as the building gets closed, you don't. So I try and it's, probably no more than 20 photos with a little caption of what the progress is. Go through that.
And this is once a month, right?
Once this is at our committee meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe we can put that on the website too, to just show the public the progress.
I've had other towns take that report and post it, yeah. Or post portions of it. You don't have, you can chop out the photo doc section and do that.
Yep.
And, the other thing is, we're going to have a lot of photos. I'm just doing a representative sample of things that are of our interest, the first beam, or,
And all of our meetings get recorded too. All of our meetings get recorded, so.
Correct. So, and then I would go into like the project schedule, and then a look-ahead schedule based on like the short number of bullets. Other construction issues, unforeseen or latent conditions, delivery date issues, any workforce issues, if for some reason someone's not showing up, just sort of say, this is what we're encountering and what we're doing about it. Any claims someone may have, and other items. I can anticipate there can be many items that we may want to talk about. Then, like we had just talked about, review of construction PCOs and change order approvals. Then, some more of somewhat the soft cost stuff, FF&E update, the owner vendor schedules and installations updates. That's going to be more towards the end of the project. Then, total project budget review and contingency status. That'll be an ongoing monthly review. And then invoice approvals, which I want to ask the question on. Right so far, the OPM and the designer invoices haven't gone through the committee for an approval process. They've gone to Justin for processing. Do you want to do that also with the application for payment? Because again, that process is going to be Contractor's going to give us a pencil/draft requisition last week of the month, through to the end of the month. Dawn Whittier and Vertex are going to go through it, based on what we've seen. If they're looking for stored material, do they have the proper paperwork? And vet that application out and cut it back to the percentages that we think is accurate to what they're doing through the end of the month. Send that back to them. They'll make the corrections, send it in signed, and then the architect will certify it that it's correct, and then it'll be ready for processing. I don't know whether,
I would just add one thing, Steve. So our process has been, if it's under 5,000, it's typically just been the town administrator. Over 5,000, the chair and the town administrator have signed off on it. Just to,
These are all going to be over 5,000.
so exactly, just to
Yes.
put full disclosure out there. So I think that same process.
and I'm going to put an OPM letter on it,
Yeah.
like you've seen, that says, here's what they've done, here's the percentages, just sort of a summary of their 25 pages of.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see where the building committee's gonna, if you and Ron have both vetted it, where the building committee's gonna say, we don't agree.
Okay, I just want to ask, because other municipalities, they want to go through the invoices. One town, I go through all the invoices. So it's just a matter of how you want to do it.
I mean, I think, again, somebody wants to go through them, whether that be Matt or Justin or Todd or whoever it is, but I don't know that they all need to come to us,
I would suggest we do it the way we've been doing it. I think that makes sense.
which is,
Yeah, I agree.
And it's likely going to be over $5,000. Kevin has to sign off and I sign off on them.
Could we put that in the same cap as the 50,000 with the other thing, just to keep it all consistent? Would that make sense, or is that?
It's totally different.
Oh, so raise our cap from 5,000.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we should raise the cap to something, right? So you're not signing.
but the pay recs are going to be like.
Yeah, the pay recs are.
They're going to be like
Yeah.
300,000.
Right.
Yeah, so
The
what-
pay recs are always going to be over that amount,
Yeah.
so.
The lowest one you're probably going to see is the first one, which is for their bond costs. Once they start work, they'll all be over, they'll be six figures.
I mean, they have a budget that they told us they were gonna work within. We have a budget that we're constrained to. I don't really see the invoice approvals as being that, especially if they're approved through 3 levels anyway before they get to us. I don't see them being controversial.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No, and we get the updates on them once a month. I don't think we need to slow the process down by having them formally signed by us.
But do we say, okay, well, like below 500,000, just Justin can sign off on them? Or?
I think,
Does that even
like you-
matter?
Like you said, like the quantities and the prices are all there already. And if it's not, it's a change order, which we're gonna set a limit for anyways. So if it's all part of the project, it's a cost that we knew about,
I mean,
and they're just billing for it, I don't see why we have to.
I think our process
have a limit
works.
on it.
I think the way we're doing
It's
it
been
now is
working
fine,
well.
is two signatures at least, so not one of us is hanging out there.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's once a month. I mean, it's,
All right, we'll
If you
just
guys
do the
see
same
something-
process I'm doing.
You guys see something that
Okay.
raises your eyebrows,
then we bring it to the
bring it to
committee.
the committee.
Right.
Right.
So I just also want to mention, Steve, if you don't mind, that every pay requisition, you're actually only paying 95% of what the contractor's asking for. Because with every pay requisition, we're retaining 5%. And in addition to that, I think the checks and balances that Steve described and Justin described is, we just want to make sure we don't overpay for anything, right?
Right.
So if a month goes by where, we happen to approve a requisition because the contractor, for whatever reason, told us that something would be done, and then the next month it's not, we can also adjust the next month's payment application. So it's not as if you're going to be at any risk at any point in the beginning or even midway through the construction where, somehow you've overpaid, right? Typically, what we want to do is just make sure that it's in line with the progress of the work. And so that's kind of one of the things that we do in terms of what Steve said, where we walk around once a week after all the job meetings. It's not only to walk around, make sure the quality of the work is where it needs to be, and just observe. I mean, because the reality is, we're observing the construction. But we're also observing like what's been installed. And so when the pay requisitions come in, that week before the pay requisitions are finalized, most times, Steve's team and our team would be walking around the building basically with their pencil requisition, their draft requisition, reviewing everything that's been installed to make sure that what they're asking for is appropriate. But what we don't do is we don't say, okay, how many sheets of drywall do you have? How many of this and how many of that? It's a general sense of, yeah, they're 10% done, 20% done, 30% done.
Ron, are you guys doing field reports?
Yes.
And to add to that, there's a certain point in time in every project where you sort of flip what you're looking at. You start off looking at what's done, and then as you get deeper into the job, you start looking at what's left to do, and then making sure that their balance to complete is accurate enough. So it's sort of a couple different ways, at least that I look at it, as you go along. Oh, okay. Then just continuing on, if there's an architect report, then we can have Ron present what he may have. And then, I was saying, action items was approval of PCOs, change orders, approval of invoices, approval of amendments, approval of minutes. So we've sort of answered a bunch of those, what we are and are not doing. And then, the end of the building committee meeting is our usual stuff, the other topics, and then adjournment, so. So that was it on the meeting agendas going forward during construction. And then we also had there was a couple of, there was one amendment. I don't know if you found, Justin, that the Dorn-Whittier amendment carried through, it is written up to carry through, but whether was that signed and that's all set?
Yeah.
And we forwarded the documents, it's all signed and all set.
Yeah,
Okay.
Doran Whittier was executed through closeout.
Okay.
So
All
they're
right.
all set.
Sorry, so ours was handled a little bit different. We were only executed through bidding. So I forwarded OPM amendment number 2, which had the CA, but also had the HVAC commissioning and the building envelope commissioning added to it because it was going through us. It's a separate line item on the budget sheet. So this is just sort of a snapshot out of that OPM amendment, where what our original contract in Amendment 1 was to what our Amendment 2 is.
Yeah, and I checked, this lined up with the project when we,
Spreadsheet that we saw.
yeah, if you remember when we all met before.
Right, the
with
overall
town
project
meeting,
budget, yeah.
And we talked about your fee and Ron's CA fee, this all aligns with that already, so.
Okay.
To me, we've already vetted this amount, but if anybody wants.
This is just, again, this is like a change order that we're going to do with the contract. We've already talked about all this. I just hadn't generated the amendment yet, and now we're getting into construction. It's time to do that, so.
And then the other one was
That's it.
the rest of the geotech, I believe, right? That one was also this wouldn't be you, Steve, it was.
No, but the one thing we do need to do for the geotech is that it's the same thing. You have approved the total amount for the geotech,
Yeah.
but it's like task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, and so the vote was taken to approve the total amount, subject to the fact that only the design tasks were being done at the time of the vote, and that when the vote passed, they were authorized to go ahead and expend the construction task of it. So I believe that the total amendment for the geotech is included, obviously, in all of the budgets.
It is.
But it's just a matter of saying, okay, now that we're in the construction, we're authorizing the use of it. And that won't happen until April, when the contractor's on site.
So.
We should be all set.
Yeah, so for these, they're not invoices, so would we still put both our signatures
Yeah.
on these, or does the town just execute the contract with, the contract amendment with,
So for the additional service request, because I'd like to keep it standard what we did,
Yeah,
the
I think-
latest
I
ones
think
that
we
we did,
both
we
signed
both
it.
did
I
it.
think
I'd
we
like to
both
do
signed
that.
it.
The other one, the town can, I think the amendment for the management services,
Yeah.
that was what Blythe just single-handedly did, and I'm
Yes.
comfortable doing that as well.
okay, all right. So you and I will sign off. So we'll need an updated geotech one that now says task 2 and 3, because I think the one that was attached still just said task 1 only.
I thought we noted it,
The
that the
language had a
approval
note.
was for task 1, but everything was there.
Yeah.
So you might be able to
Okay,
reuse
so
that.
maybe if someone in your office can just remove the task 1 only, and then we'll just sign it again.
Can you remember, what is their scope during construction? Is it full-time on-site observation, or is it just random, the geotech? Or is it-
It's not full-time.
It's not, it's part-time
Right.
testing? Okay.
They
Yeah,
had
I mean,
one week
essentially, they're gonna be in the
Okay.
beginning of the project.
Okay.
I'd have to look
So-
back at the details. Maybe, Ron, you remember exactly?
Yeah, so, the tailings, the blasted tailings that are on site, that remain on site, when that material is coming out and getting backfilled, they will be full-time on site, but that's not throughout the entire process.
That's good.
So it's a very limited amount of time when they're pulling that material out and putting the new material in, because they do have the option to process it on site,
Yeah.
right? And so, for that, they'll be there every day that activity is taking place. The only other thing that they're doing during construction is reviewing submittals.
Yep.
And the submittals for structural fill, common borrow, things like that. So that's essentially what their scope is limited to, or that's what their scope includes.
And they'll provide, what, weekly field reports, or I guess for the full-time week, and then individual daily report for part-time visits?
Yeah. Whenever any of our consultants go out on site, we ask that they provide a report. In the case of the geotech, I suspect he's going to be doing compaction tests while that's going on,
Yeah.
and he'll be doing his observations, to make sure that they've gone down to the proper depth, removed what they needed to remove, and whatever they put back in complies with what the submittals were. So it could be a very simple report. It could be a very detailed report, depending on the work that particular day.
So Ron, your geotech engineer is gonna do the compaction testing, not a third-party agency?
We can do it either way. The third-party testing agency has that in their scope, but what I meant was that they'll be observing the compaction test.
Okay.
Yeah, Ron, I was gonna ask you that. Maybe the geotech is just doing it for the stuff that he's watching, but not for the rest of the project.
Correct. Their observations are very specific
Yeah.
to the removal and replacement of the blasted tailings that were left in place back in 2017.
We're gonna have a testing agency like a UTS or something that's gonna
That
be
tests
doing
every
Okay,
lift.
okay.
for, your pavement, gravel, your footing, bottom of footing, concrete, steel, rebar inspections.
Okay.
It's not the geotech. But there's a lot of eyes on the project.
We should probably talk about that a little bit. So how is that typically the third-party testing agency, is that typically run through you, through Ron, through us?
It's typically run through us. I'm putting out a request for its rates because it's,
Right.
you
Yep.
can't, it's tough to give them a solid scope because you don't know how many pours that the contractor's gonna do. But I go up for rates, and I usually go in a circle of the testing agencies that are closest to the project because they do charge for travel. And I'm not gonna get someone, up in New Hampshire to drive down here. And then it can
He
go.
means
It can
that
go.
in a nice way.
Not including you, Ron. It can go directly to the town, that contract, but most of the time it goes through us. Regardless of how that's run, we coordinate the visits and get them there on time in conjunction with the discussion with the site superintendent. Ideally, site superintendent says, I'm doing a pour in 2 days. Clerk, calls whoever it is, says, I need a concrete tech out here in 2 days, because they always want 48 hours. Doesn't always happen, but try and limit the short calls as much as possible. And then they come out, and then, we tell them, they get a copy of the drawings and the specs, but they, a lot of times they'll come out and we'll just show them again where it is. And they'll do their report. They'll have an observation report, and then if they're doing concrete, cylinder test, we'll get a concrete test report, and I'll set up the distribution to go to Vertex, Dorn Whittier, the structural engineer, the building inspector, and when whoever it is sends those out, because they're by email, they go directly to the people that we've listed.
Yeah,
Oh, and the contractor also.
That's kind of where I was leading to with my questions, was the, who's coordinating, who's getting notification from the contractor. And I think even at pre-construction, or sometime between then and start of actual earthwork, it's important to kind of set some ground rules with the contractor as to, you have to provide us 48 hours notice. If you don't, and you only give us 24, and the geotech can't make it on site, you can't do your work. You can't just do it when the geotech's not
That's
here.
one of my topics on my pre-construction
Perfect.
agenda. I got like 20-something items.
Okay.
So, and then I know Ron has a draft of a pre-con in the spec too. So, when you have the pre-con, you talk about a lot of things. Not everything is always retained by those guys, and
Oh, no.
sometimes the super isn't there, but you just got to keep saying it. You go, if you don't give us the proper notice and they can't make it, and then you're pouring at your own risk. And we may make you drill it and do a test after the fact, because we don't want to have that. And everything gets documented. We do daily reports of, work that was done, who was, contractors there, man counts, because we have to review the certified payrolls, make sure that, if they had 10 roofers on the site, there's 10 roofers on the certified payroll. So there's a lot of checking and paperwork.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think running testing through the OPM probably makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Just like we did with commissioning, and
Yeah.
so.
Yep. I give the option because some towns, they want it to go direct to them, and that's fine, but this way, we're paying the bill, and I'd be reviewing, if you did it directly to the town, I'd have to get copied on the invoice anyways to make sure that the rates are right and the trips were correct, because sometimes we find little discrepancies. They're never major, but, if they're charging an extra $100 for something that they weren't there for, we're gonna cross it off. So Ron, I'm set if you wanna put up that draft project sign.
Okay, can you see it?
We can.
Yep.
All right, let me move this out of here. Okay, so if y'all can see it, so what I was thinking, and this is all subject to, what I'm gonna do is I can email this off to Justin and Steve at the end of the meeting, and to the chief. And just if anybody wants to review it, mark it up, comment on it, send it back to us. The one thing that you may want to consider is just have something up there for the duration of the job that really thanks the Norfolk voters for approving this project and making it come to fruition. And then what we have here is the owner, the architect, the OPM, the general contractor, and then the significant consultants, which are GGD, EDG, and I just noticed a typo, Terra Inc. and Niche Engineering. And so basically it lists everybody who's on the project. The sign is actually 7 feet wide and 3 foot 2 inches tall. There's a border around it of hardwood, 2 3/4 inch pieces of hardwood that go around the border of the sign to make sure it lasts. And then the image itself would be screened on there so it doesn't fall apart in the weather. And the contractor owns providing this. So what we are required to do is to give them the artwork for it. And then they'll make the sign and install the sign. The sign sits about 7 feet up off, so the top of that sign that you're looking at there will probably be somewhere between 6 and 7 feet off the ground.
I have a couple nitpicky things if I can. I think the department's looking at doing a thank you sign. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're looking at maybe just get permission to do a banner or something like that. We weren't sure on the requirements on that, so.
I think the department logo should be a little bit more prominent than just like that little thing in the center there. And is it reasonable to put an anticipated completion date on the sign? Or is that making assumptions that we don't want to make?
I would recommend against it, just in
Just a
case it
question.
isn't hit.
Yeah.
People
Yep.
driving by that
Just a
every day.
question, yeah.
Ron, it's Castagna Construction Corporation also,
Do we
not
say
Inc.
like fall of '24, do we put a broad range on there, or is that just leave it alone?
I think you just leave it.
I guess I'll pick up on that, in that I think maybe if we move the department seal down the lower left-hand corner
I was thinking that too,
and
yeah.
added the town seal.
Oh, yeah, that's a good, yeah.
And in terms of project information, maybe we throw the
QR code.
QR code on there that takes them to the town website.
Yeah, that'd be good,
Remember,
yeah.
it's gonna be, the sign's gonna be massive too, so you don't want that being like,
Yeah, a reasonably sized
Yeah.
QR code.
Ron, the only other thing that, I think this comment was sent to Kevin and myself early on, diversity on the poster. This is gonna be a 7-foot sign, so you'll see a little more predominantly, so let's just make sure we have some diversity on this sign, please.
I think you added that to some later renderings, Ron, so maybe take a look at those.
and then,
You mean in the people?
Yes.
yep.
Okay.
Real quick, down in the bottom right where for niche, it's got engineering shown twice.
Yeah, I know.
Civil engineering.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
So I said there
down
was some
into the weeds
typos. So this was thrown
That's why it's a
together.
draft.
And I knew I'd have to be sending it around anyway. The two things that I would like to get though, because we basically cropped this seal from somewhere we probably shouldn't have. So it's not very good in terms of graphics. And the town seal is also something that if you could send us like a JPEG of the fire department seal and the town seal, we can make sure that they get on there and they're, graphically they're pixelated to the point where they're going to look good on a sign that's this big.
Yep.
Because they'll get those, as you blow it up, it's going to get blurry.
I think putting them in the
Exactly,
bottom corner-
exactly. So what we want to do is just make sure we have good quality, the fire department patch and the town seal
And the QR code.
and the QR code, exactly. Yep.
So were you suggesting take off the thank you?
No, I'm not sure, I had heard the department was considering doing something, I didn't,
Yeah, we just thought we would do that, but we didn't realize that that would be on the sign.
Do you want to put the thank you at the bottom of the sign, then put the seals up at the
oh,
upper
that could
corner?
work too, make it the whole width of the
And then
bottom.
instead of red, maybe you do it white so that you don't lose it, but.
Yeah, that might look good.
So the bottom of the sign is probably 4 feet off the ground.
Yeah, I kind of like having the thank you up
Yeah,
Higher.
so I was just
more
thinking,
visible,
that'd be a good spot for it as up high.
and then the seals down low.
Okay, well, like I said, it's a draft. We will send it around. Folks can comment on it, send it back, and then we'll do a, kind of like a final version, sort of like exactly what we did with the, the presentations that we put together. We'll just keep putting drafts together, and I'll keep trying to use spell check. And then, like, at some point, it'll work out.
All right, you got a little bit of time.
Yep, and I'll also send an email that requests like the PNG files or the vector files and things like that. And then someone in our office will put all this together so that graphically we know that when it gets printed at 3 foot by 7 foot, it's going to be, it'll be a good quality sign that you can read and that's graphically pleasing.
Then we got to figure out the best place to place it, because we didn't put it on the site plans that I could find, Ron. unless I'm mistaken, but I look for it.
No, we didn't. Well, when the contractor gets here and when, we all start, when we're out at the site or something, maybe not next Wednesday's meeting, but, a meeting after that, before they mobilize in April, we'll pick a spot on the site, tell them to put it right there. What we want to do, though, is kind of put it out of the way.
Right. Out of the-
Another possibility, frankly, because the new building, the old station doesn't come down until the new building is completed. Another thing you could do is just put it up against the existing building that faces the street. And then in time, when that comes down, you won't need the sign anymore, right? Because the building is built and they can see it. Or you can just relocate it at that point.
I've seen projects where we hang it on the construction fence so that it's close to the road, but when they move the fence, then they can take it down and relocate, as opposed to putting on 2 posts. There's pros and
Yeah, that's a
cons
good
to
idea,
that. I had one contractor say, I don't want that because it's going to blow my fence down. I said, well, you can put a couple braces on it, but there are options, and because you want people to see it.
Put it on a couple posts and straddle it.
This was a one-sided sign, right, Ron? I thought
Yeah, it is a one-sided sign that they own, yep.
Because I thought I read somewhere, it might have been another project that was a two-sided, which then it would have to be perpendicular to the road.
No.
I don't think we need that.
It's a one-sided sign.
Yeah. Okay, location is, I'm just putting out there for people to think about. Generally, you don't want it right in their way where they're going to immediately say, I'm going to move this, so.
It's a contractor site, they can tell us where they want to put it.
You know where that'll be.
We just should consider the sight line of the vehicles exiting the station that's still in operation when we think about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bit more than just where the contractor prefers it.
It's a big sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't leave it up to the contractor.
Can the committee visit the site whenever we want?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
think.
Ron.
You just want.
You are
wanna-
the owners.
You want to check in with
Sure.
Vertex just to make sure that we know you're there, but, and we'll have spare hard hats and vests in the trailer. And then, that's the best person to ask questions of anyway, so. Should be.
Any other discussion items for anyone?
I don't have anything else, no.
Okay. So for action items, I might have you pull back up the slide of the limits, just so I can have the amounts, maybe.
5 and 50.
25 and
25
50.
on-site, 50 site.
So
Yeah, disconnected, so I don't know whether that's going to come back on or not.
first one was review and consider approval of architect and OPM contract amendments, but I think technically there's no architect amendments that need to be approved tonight, because the geotech was already approved.
Yeah, no.
So I'll ask for a motion to consider approval of Vertex's contract amendment in the amount of $734,403 for construction phase services and $126,990 for commissioning, both of which are not to exceed limits.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. So then this one, so Justin, I'll say, so this would be a limit on change orders, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and then I'll bring up payment requisitions will just be executed by you and I on a
Well,
monthly
that's,
basis.
we already voted on that, right? If it's over 5,000, it's the two of you.
True,
Yeah.
okay, yep, good point.
The only thing we want to change there is without full.
Full.
Yes,
Fire station
for
building
approval by the
committee
town
review.
administrator and a committee member as you see fit, or just.
I would
wanna
just say town
complicate
administrator.
administrator,
And my,
without full fire
my-
station building committee.
what I will do is, I'm gonna just request what Steve has always done, is include you on there, so you're in the know.
Yep, okay. All right, so I'll ask for a motion to set a upper limit for change order approval without, or for approval by the town administrator without full fire station building committee review of $25,000 for non-site related change orders and $50,000 for site related change orders.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So then I think the only other one is meeting minutes.
I've reviewed the December 14th meeting minutes, found no, had no edits or comments or anything, so I'd like to ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. One thing we, and I don't think this needs a vote, but we should probably set, if we want to meet one Wednesday a month,
Yeah.
set what that is. We want to do the first Monday, the second Monday, or second Wednesday, first Wednesday, second Wednesday. I think, Steve, were you saying the second Wednesday might be best? Because if there are
Yeah, I was,
pay-rec questions or anything,
well,
we can talk about it.
I was saying, at the beginning of the meeting, I was saying the second Wednesday, more towards the approval of the pay application.
Which if we don't-
But we're not doing
we're not
that now.
gonna do that now.
So I think it's more open to,
So, yeah, so I
Well,
asked,
we're not doing that formally, but if there's questions on it that need to be brought to the committee, we should probably still do that at an
Yeah.
appropriate time for the questions to be asked, for cohorts to move on them.
I think if anything, we maybe want to just say the second Wednesday, because I'm just looking at the calendar, and there's some months that Wednesday's the first day of the month, so,
like March.
March. And was,
Yeah, I was going to say avoid the third Wednesday because I think that's zoning board. Do you have something to say about it?
The first Wednesday of the month is the Conservation Commission. The
Third is zoning, so why don't we
third is
do-
zoning.
Second.
And
So we'll do second Wednesday of each month. So our next meeting will be on the 8th.
yep.
For what it's worth, if you did the 4th, I'm just thinking, Steve, in terms of pay applications. So, but I think I'm not clear if we decided that Kevin's going to do it and Justin's going to do it, and then we just update the board, and if that's the case, then we're good.
That's what we decided.
Yeah, and I would say the end of the
Okay,
month.
then we're fine. We're
Right,
fine.
The end of
Second works.
The end of the month is going to be, you're going to get a pencil rec, so it's not going to be
Exactly.
vetted yet. I think
Correct,
The
yeah.
beginning of the month's
Exactly.
probably better.
Yep, that's perfect. Don't listen to me. I'll shut up.
Okay, so once a month, second Wednesday of the month.
6 PM still?
Yeah, I think if that works for everyone, I personally think it makes my life easier, get home a little earlier.
Ditto.
Okay?
Works for me.
Does anybody want me to send out recurring meeting invites, or can everybody take care of that?
We can do that. I'll have, Amanda can send it out for us.
Motion to adjourn.
Can she?
yeah, I can.
So,
No, let's adjourn.
moved.
I'll ask.
Okay. All right,
my second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
See you on the 8th.